All I have to say is, I'm lucky to be alive. 2 years ago, me and a bunch of my friends were heading down to Nashville, Tennessee to see a concert. It was one of our favorite artists, and Tennessee was the closest he was performing to us. We lived in Ohio, and none of us could afford the plane tickets at the time, so we had to drive instead. The total drive time to get there wasn't bad. The GPS was telling us it would take about 7 hours if we drove straight through, which we planned on doing. I was driving my old Honda CR-V at the time. The one mistake that we made was leaving too late into the day. So when we were about 5 hours into the trip, I think it was a little past 1 in the morning. Well, we were driving on some pretty windy back roads. Like, the roads were single lanes, narrow, and trees and woods surrounded us for miles. I remember thinking this would be such a shitty place to get a flat tire or stranded. I was switching on one of the songs on my phone when I had to slam on the brakes. The sudden stop woke up all my sleeping buddies, and they were asking me what's up. I pointed out the window. About 10 yards out, in front of us, in the middle of the road, was a pile of dead deer. Again, this back road that we were on was very narrow, and the 5 dead deer stacked were blocking us from going forward. The weird thing about this was, they weren't just dead like they'd been hit by a car dead. They were neatly stacked up as if someone had done this purposely. I had my car in park, discussing with my friends what this was and how we were going to get around it, when one of my friends said that he saw something moving in the trees. We all looked out the window, but it was very hard to see in the pitch black. The only lights were coming from my headlights, which were on the dead deer. I started getting really nervous and very claustrophobic being stuck on this tiny back road when, suddenly, we heard this horrible shrieking. We all froze, and we knew that shriek wasn't some wild animal. It sounded like a human shriek. My friends and I started to freak out. I inched up closer to the dead deer to try to see if I could somehow squeeze past them or simply drive over them. I realized the only way around these deer was to drive off-road, down the slight ditch, and then back onto the road again. I was about to do this, telling my friends the plan, when there was a man standing in front of our car with an axe. He was shirtless, hairy, extremely strong, like some kind of barbarian. His hair was wild and thin. The axe he held was dripping blood, and he was looking directly at all of us. I didn't even think, I just reacted. I put my car in drive and sped right at the man. The man who held the axe swung it down. It connected with the hood of my CR-V, but I kept pushing the gas. I burst through the wall of deer and even clipped the axeman a bit. Blood and deer hair stained my front window. I turned on the wipers and kept holding the gas down. In my rear view, I could see the axeman trying to run after us with the axe held high above his head. We stopped by a 24-hour car wash and cleaned all the deer blood off. After that, we drove the remaining 2 hours straight through, not stopping for nothing. The crazy thing is, I still have that axe dent mark on my CR-V's hood. It's a reminder of that fucking psychopath we encountered. Now if me and my buddies ever take road trips, we make sure we only travel during daylight and only take major highways. Last year, my family and I were heading down to Disney World for the first time. It was my little brother's birthday, and it's something that he's always wanted to do. So, my parents saved enough money, booked a hotel, and were able to take the whole family down. The only thing was, we weren't going to fly because of the flight costs, so we ended up driving down instead. And for context, we live in Pennsylvania, so from there to Disney is about a 17-hour drive, give or take the traffic. My dad was the one driving, my mom rode shotgun, and me and my little brother were in the back seats. My dad is someone who likes to go at things full steam ahead. he announced that we would not be stopping for anything. He'll drink tons of coffee and get us there very fast. We left on a Thursday morning, with the plan to arrive in Disney by early afternoon Friday. With my dad going non-stop, that would not be a problem. Except, he did end up getting very tired. I think we were somewhere in Georgia. I had just woken up from a very uncomfortable nap. The time was around 4 a.m. My dad announced that he actually was pretty tired and that the safest thing to do would be to pull over and to rest a bit. My dad pulled into some vacant rest stop area. I remember how creepy it was. There was this small parking lot surrounded by trees and forests. There were no other cars around us at all, and we were completely alone. At this point, I was wide awake. Since I had had my uncomfortable nap, I had no desire to sleep at all. It was really weird being the only one awake in the complete darkness of the car with my family. I decided to play some Candy Crush just to pass the time. I made sure to turn the volume and brightness down so I would not wake the rest of my family. I was playing for maybe 5 minutes when I could tell something was off. I looked at my family and they were still fast asleep. I was wondering why I felt this odd sensation, almost like that feeling when eyes were on you, when I decided to look out my window. I don't know how to say this, but the moment I held my phone light up to the window, standing there with their face pressed up against the glass, was this old lady. Like, I'm talking very old. White thin hair, wrinkled skin. She was breathing hard, and her breath was fogging up the outside glass. She was tilting her head left and right, like she was analyzing an animal in a cage at a zoo. I remember I wanted to scream my head off, but I was seriously paralyzed with fear. I just couldn't believe there was an old lady in the middle of fucking nowhere at 4 a.m. just staring at me, and the only thing separating us was the car window. She stared at me for a few more seconds, put her crooked old finger to her lips, like she was signaling for me to be quiet, and crept back slowly until she disappeared into the woods. I didn't say a word. I was just frozen to my seat for like 20 minutes, recalling what the hell just happened. Believe me, I got 0 seconds of sleep that night. When the sun started to rise, my dad woke up and we were back on the road once again. We ended up making it to Disney just fine, and we actually had a blast. I know it'll sound weird, but I did not tell anybody about that creepy old lady staring at me at night. I don't know how I would, and I think it's best if I don't. Back in 2022, me and my best friend, Angela, were road tripping from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. It was summertime, and we loved going to the beach, so we would regularly make these beach trips, which only took about 2 hours depending on the traffic. Well, the main road you take to get to Ocean City, Jersey, which was where we were headed, was the Atlantic City Expressway. If you know anything about the expressway, it's littered with cops and people doing 100 miles per hour. Anyway, I was the one doing the driving. We were on the expressway, cruising at about 75 miles per hour. We were about 1 hour away from Ocean City when blue flashing lights lit up from behind me. It wasn't a normal police car that was signaling for me to pull over. It was an unmarked, undercover one. Nervous and sweaty, I pulled over to the shoulder of the expressway. I turned my car off and put my blinkers on. The unmarked car pulls up behind us. The man got out. He was wearing aviator sunglasses and normal civilian clothes, like blue jeans and a button-down white shirt. I thought that was a bit strange, but I did not know how unmarked officers were supposed to dress. He gets to my driver's side window and leans down. Immediately, I can feel him looking at my chest and Angela's, like he wasn't even trying to hide it or be slick. He smiled and asked for my license. I handed it over. He looked at it and said that I had a sexy-ass name. and at this point I was starting to sweat profusely. The officer saw how nervous I was and said I was too pretty to look this upset. He asked me to step out of the vehicle and to follow him over to his. I gave Angela a pleading look, but in the moment, we felt like there was nothing that we could do. I got out and followed him. He got to his car and leaned against it, still smiling. He said that he's going to need to search me just to be sure. He opened his back door and told me to take all my clothes off just to be sure that I didn't have any weapons. I looked in the back seat and saw a bunch of clothes, cigarettes, empty liquor bottles, and rope. I knew right then and there that this was not a real police officer. We'd been pulled over by someone trying to pretend to be one. I made a decision right then and there. I leaned in like I was going to start taking my shirt off, but then quickly grabbed one of the empty liquor bottles, turned, and bashed it over the man's head. He shrieked in pain, and I saw a piece of glass protruding from his left eye. I then kicked him in the nuts, pushed him back, and sprinted back to my car. Angela was frantic, asking what happened. I said to shut up, turned on the car, and sped back onto the expressway. When we were a safe distance away, I pulled into our rest stop and called the police. And I told them someone was impersonating a police officer and they tried to hurt me. I also said I injured them badly enough that they would most likely go to a hospital nearby with an eye injury. And that's exactly how they caught him. He had checked in at Atlantic Care. Doctors were told to be on the lookout for him. They treated his eye, which actually had to be removed, and then he was arrested. I guess the moral of the story is, be ultra aware of what is going on around you. I should have asked to see his badge number and proof of police when he first pulled me over. At the moment, I didn't think of it, but now I know. Be safe, everyone.